Hello everybody, this is Scott Dudley from SaaS Startup Stories, and today my special guest is Zandra Moore, who's based in Leeds, England. Zandra is the CEO and co-founder of PanIntelligence, which provides embedded analytics for SaaS vendors, and she's also the founder of communities No Code Lab and Lean in Leeds. Welcome to the show, Zandra. Are you ready to rock and roll?
I am. Thank you very much for inviting me to join you today.
You're welcome. Let's get stuck into it. And we can start off with your background and what initially got you interested in starting a SaaS company in the first place.
Well, thank you for that. So yeah, I think it's an interesting story for most entrepreneurs. Mine's probably no different in the fact that I'm an accidental founder. It wasn't something I intended to do. I went to university, did a business degree, fell into the tech sector. I was fortunate enough to have a great role model at home. My mum was a leader in the tech industry in the early days of the internet and the early days of the cloud. So she very much was a bit of a vanguard and a great role model for me at home. So I fell into the tech sector because it was the part of the economy that was looking for lots of talent out of university. Really loved it. Loved being part of the whole pace and innovation of a tech sector, and found myself working my way up through various roles in small technology companies. Got involved in an early SaaS business doing sort of online HR software. Became sales director of that, and we sold that to a big international technology firm called Walters Kluwer. And it was at that point really that I made the decision to set up on my own. I originally started a software sales consultancy for early stage SaaS startups because I'd been working in helping build out a SaaS business and was able to exit that, and found myself working with a really great team at a company called PanIntelligence. Well, actually it was a product inside another company, and we decided to buy the IP and spin it out. And I was really looking for something that I could make my own. So I sort of been part of a growing an early stage SaaS business, but really wanted to be part of building my own business, and part of being a sales consultant for other SaaS startups was to look for that opportunity, and that's where the PanIntelligence story really began for me.
Okay, nice, awesome. All right, so all the people that I've interviewed so far for this show, bar two, including yourself, have all been men. So I'm just curious what it's like being a woman in technology when the majority of SaaS founders are men, and if you think that the balance will change a bit in the future.
Yeah, it's a great question. We did a piece for International Women's Day actually this week, all about that you're more likely to be a director of a tech company in the UK than of a FTSE 250 business actually. Okay. And I think it is changing, and yes, it's still largely a male dominated sector. There's still only 17% of tech roles are fulfilled by women, which is it hasn't really changed for 10 years, but we are seeing more female founders and more women on the boards of tech companies, which is great. What's it like? I think it's no different to any industry where there is a disparity in all roles. I think it's about the women in those sectors sort of championing diversity, leading from the front, being visible, going out and talking to schools and other sectors to help young women that are making those choices around perhaps their options or decisions in education earlier, to see that perhaps these roles are roles that they can do and may enjoy doing, and that's about sort of visibility of female leaders or female representation in perhaps roles where there's not much diversity. So yeah, I think it's changing, but I do think it's really important that women that are sat at the table go out and encourage others to do the same, and that's what will make the biggest change, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so when you took over PanIntelligence, so it was sort of it was an established company already, wasn't it? It wasn't something that you had to build up from scratch. Is that right? Or
yeah, it was a product inside another company that was already at its early stages of development, and I came in to help that very small team. There was three of us right at the start to take that product to market, because it was a a developer and a leader in that business that saw an opportunity for this product that they'd started to build outside of their own customer base. So I sort of came in to help with that. Ended up working more and more with them, building a small team inside the company. And when the company was sold, it was a company called PanCredit, big fintech business, got acquired. We were still a loss-making, unproven, early stage piece of tech in the company, and we basically bought the IP out, and we were a team of 6 at that point. So we'd sort of proven it out to a point, but it was still early. But we did believe that we had the foundations for a business and a SaaS proposition that we could build on. So yeah, we had the benefit of being incubated, I think, in a corporate, which really helped us sort of bootstrap and get off the ground in those early days.
Okay, interesting. All right, so tell me a little bit about the PanIntelligence product, the pricing tiers, and what it provides to its users. What's it all about?
Yeah, great. So we are a 3-in-1 data insight engine. What I mean by that is, in the data analytics and data insight market, you have a variety of different types of tools to do a number of different things. For example, hindsight data analysis like reporting tools, real-time data insight tools like data visualization tools like a Tableau or a Power BI or a Looker. And then you have predictive or machine learning engines, or AI as some of them call themselves, IBM Watson or Alteryx or those kind of technologies, SageMaker, are all technologies in that kind of predictive machine learning space. And PanIntelligence is a 3-in-1 technology. So we do all of those 3 things: reporting, data visualization, and machine learning in one tool. But we are used by those companies that already have data and want to fast track their capability to do those things, but not build it from the ground up. So we are a white label engine that is embedded, white labeled, and rebranded as other platforms technology. So it helps them accelerate their roadmaps in those areas. So often SaaS vendors or data as a service providers, where they've got a lot of data already, but they have a need, perhaps an urgent need, because their market is requiring or demanding that kind of capability or functionality, or even a customer, a very large customer that is wanting more capability around access to data insight, whether that's visualization or prediction or reporting. And we enable them to do that quickly because they can deploy us as a mature product into their stack and white label it as their own, look like the heroes, frankly. We're always white labeled, we're always rebranded. We don't have a big brand like a Looker, a Power BI, an Alteryx, a Sisense, all these kind of tools that we're comparable to, but that's because we're designed to be integrated into other people's products or platforms in the cloud.
Okay, and those 3 categories that you were talking about, they're all synchronized and integrated together, I guess, as well, which that would be pretty rare.
Yeah, so you usually find there's a single tooling for each of those. So it might be SSRS is being used for reporting. You might have Power BI or Looker for data visualization. And then you may be building some Python scripts or using a bit of R, or even use a tool like Alteryx for machine learning. And actually none of those things talk to each other or integrate. And you're usually having to move data in order to do those things. Whereas we don't move data, we query the data that already exists, that the SaaS vendors have done an awesome job at actually creating a lot of architecture and paying a lot for the infrastructure around. So we don't move it, we query what's there. We were built for banking originally, so we know how to do that over very large, high volume data sets. So, we don't cause a performance impact on the underlying data set, and we do it securely embedded inside the platform and application that ensures that all users are only seeing what you want them to see and doing what you want them to do around data. So you have complete control. You've not got the overhead of additional data storage for the purposes of reporting, and you've got a single layer to do 3 things, a single querying layer to do those 3 things. So highly performant, very affordable, and rapidly deployable in a cloud stack, any cloud stack. We support all the multi-cloud deployments and different ways in which SaaS vendors need to deploy and authenticate and serve that data up.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, it makes sense. All right, so how many employees do you have at the moment, and what departments are they separated into? Sort of, what are the department sort of heads that you have?
Yeah, good question. So we did our Series A fundraise. We raised just short of $6 million in 2019. We've been sort of scaling up our business since then. We are currently about 45 people here in the UK. All of our operations are predominantly in the UK. We do have an office in Boston, but we have a very very small operation out there. There is it's more of a physical presence and a small team as opposed to a significant operation, and it just enables us to serve the US market more effectively. But predominantly a UK team. All of our development team are here in the UK, and we're 50-50 across sort of development and product teams and commercial teams. Our commercial teams are more aligned to supporting our partners to use our technology to provide for expansion revenues or capabilities around being able to sell that into their base if they are upselling it, or just enable their sales teams or commercial teams, support teams, pre-sales teams to be able to effectively configure and present this as an added value or an enhanced layer of their proposition. So a lot more kind of enablement of our customers as opposed to perhaps direct selling, because like I said, we're always going to market through those partners platforms. So that's how we work commercially.
Okay. All right. So when you first took over PanIntelligence, what would you say was the biggest challenge you had to face, and how did you go about overcoming it?
Well, we literally carried our server across the car park and squatted in a small room in a building opposite where we'd been for the last 3 years. And the room that we were in, the 6 of us, is smaller than our boardroom today. So I think the first challenge was just making sure that when we unpicked ourselves from a larger business, that we had all of the basics in place. I mean, literally from contracts of employment through to banking. It took us 3 months to set up a bank account. It's really interesting just how difficult it was. And we literally had to payroll our team and ourselves through that period. So quite hard to unpick yourself from a bigger organization where you have all of the benefit of their operations, systems, procedures, tooling systems, HR systems, finance systems. So we had to kind of rebuild all of that from the ground up, but yet we already had customers that we needed to serve and people we needed to invoice and people we needed to support. So, telephone systems, you name it, mobile phones, a lot. So that was the first hurdle, really, was that kind of unpicking and starting again with already a product and a team and customers from day one. So that was an interesting challenge, but actually it also gave us an opportunity to reset things, because you could then choose how you wanted to structure the business. It was like having a blank piece of paper. Actually we could sort of go, actually, we're going to do that differently. We're going to use different systems. We're going to take a different approach to our employee contracts and handbooks and the tools that we use, and not having telephone systems, right, and using the latest technology around VoIP and other stuff. So we were just in a place to kind of start again whilst already having the benefit of customers and the product, which is actually quite a great place to be. So a challenge, but probably put us in the right direction to be more effective operationally and attract good people, really. So
I could imagine it'd be a bit stressful but also exciting at the same time. So would that be accurate? Or
definitely just an awful lot of plates in the air spinning, because you're having to start everything again. But actually, being able to have the freedom to do things better. We were spun out of a business that had been around for 25 years, so quite an early stage technology company with a very legacy platform, working with the banking sector, which is very slow moving and highly regulated. So we came out of a very highly regulated, highly governed business and span out into being this kind of independent, agile SaaS company. So there was a lot of things that we could do different from day one. And that was both freeing. And do you know what the first silly thing we did was, because we weren't allowed a coffee machine because of the health and safety regulations in this fintech business we were part of, was we bought a coffee machine because we were not allowed to carry hot cups of coffee across the office in this incredibly highly regulated, ISO, everything, the level of regulation we were under in the finance fintech organization because of banking. It was amazing just how restricted we'd become into the things that we could do. So daft but true.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, in your opinion, how has business intelligence helped organizations during the COVID-19 pandemic?
I think it's been interesting observing how some of our customers have pivoted their propositions and how they've used data to do that. And I might give you a couple of stories if that's helpful.
Go for it.
Yeah, so for example, we had a couple of SaaS vendors in the construction sector. One was a health and safety platform. The other was an access control fingerprint recognition system. And when the construction sector were allowed to open up again, they still had to deal with, continuing building whilst dealing with social distancing on construction sites, and also limiting the number of people on site, but still get the job done based on the project. It's quite complex at the same time as keeping people safe, right? Do we have enough people to do that job in order for them to do that job safely? Some complex considerations. And both of those SaaS vendors use the data around scheduling of resources and predictive modeling over accidents to present, predictions around risks if you have a certain number of resources on a job, or actually enabling kind of social distance monitoring around the scheduling of resources. So they just use the same data they had to provide almost like social distancing apps for construction sites, as well as prediction around accidents and risks based on resource constraints or restrictions. So same data, different application. And the same with in retail. We've got a lot of retail SaaS vendors that work both in e-commerce but also have point of sale systems and operations that were shut down because of COVID, and they used existing footfall sensors in store. So when they started to open up again, and we had a period of reduced restrictions here in the UK in particular, but also in the US, to both inform staff as well as people in store as to how many people are in store and how safe it would be to enter. Same technology, different application for the data, using data to both visualize or predict or present to both staff and consumers what's going on. So there was lots of pivots around data to respond to different scenarios in COVID that enabled those SaaS vendors to provide added value to their customers and enable those customers to continue to operate, which was really fundamental to their customers, and therefore probably has enabled those SaaS vendors to completely lock that value in, because they've created new use cases, new applications for that data of value. And I don't think those things are forgotten. When SaaS vendors pivot that quickly and enable their customers to do things, I think it creates a different kind of quality and value around that relationship beyond the technology, which I think is really powerful. So
yeah. Okay. All right. What are your most successful customer acquisition channels, and how did you find them?
Oh, great. I mean, COVID created a lot of challenges around, the pivots around different channels that were performing and then stopped performing. I mean, we've always had an SDR function here, and, you depend on people being at the end of a phone. And if you're depending on office phone numbers and all the offices shut and you don't have people's mobile numbers, suddenly those people that you had relationships with and you could pick the phone up to are not as easy to speak to. So that definitely creates some initial challenges when we weren't able to reach people as easily via the telephone as we perhaps had done before. But alternatively, we then saw pickups in other areas. So actually, people were using other channels like LinkedIn a lot more for keeping up to date or learning about what was happening in the industry. So we saw the uptake of sort of LinkedIn engagement and started to invest more in paid ads in certain channels where our customers were starting to engage in more content and perhaps were tuning into the industry because there was so much change happening. They were more active in what I'd call live media channels or live social streams, because everybody was wanting to know what was happening, because change was just absolutely happening at a rapid pace, especially in the SaaS industry. Has pivoted, people were moving from on-premise to cloud applications. That change, that swing was huge. So we did see, I don't think that's unusual. I think everybody's sort of experienced that shift. The things that have been performing for us on, where our cost of acquisition has probably reduced, has been in those paid channels, but also communities. So I set up No Code Lab in the middle of lockdown. It was a community, bringing the community together of no code SaaS platforms that were enabling that kind of rapid innovation and MVP creation for new solutions to new problems, often triggered by some of the COVID events. Just bringing those technology companies together to be at the table, ready to serve those problems with solutions quickly, as opposed to building them from the ground up with with development teams. So we were able to help innovate quickly with that community. So that was kind of born out of seeing a need for rapid MVP and creation, because we were seeing in our own customers that they were having to do that. That community is now growing rapidly and was born out of a need, but actually is now serving as a way to drive more people to us. So it's, you know, been a really affordable way for us to be able to create a whole network very rapidly that wasn't intentionally designed to generate leads or generate opportunity. It was, you know, it was designed to serve our community, frankly. But as a result, it's brought people to us, you know. So actually, I think, you know, a happy accident that's actually enabled us to feed another channel, if that makes sense. So
yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. All right, and then on the flip side, how do you approach reducing churn and retaining paying customers?
So we're really lucky, as SaaS platforms go, we're embedded and white labeled, so we're pretty sticky. The beauty of when somebody else sticks their brand on your stuff is they sort of are more invested because their brand is associated with your technology. Actually makes it harder to acquire customers because they're going to be do more due diligence around, are you the right technology for them, and is this a partnership? Do they feel that your product and your roadmap is going to continue to accelerate at the pace they need it to? So they've got to get that confidence that the tech is going to serve the need and continue to serve the need. So they will probably take a bit more time, and rightly so, to make sure that that's the right embedded tech. So we work very closely at those early stages to make sure that it is the right fit. But once we're in, then, you know, it is a partnership ultimately. You know, our tech is enabling them to deliver value to their customers, and we've got to continue to enable both them and their customers to understand how they can drive value out of it. So the way we continue to retain customers, even though it's quite a sticky proposition, is to work very closely with them on enabling them to continue to tell the story of the value of data insight and how to drive that. And often the area of prediction is the bit that a lot of SaaS teams are still wrestling with. How do I build models that can provide really useful insights and predictions, and not necessarily automate a decision, but just simply provide a nudge insight, you know, things that they can look at and take action on, not necessarily, you know, give people choices about things. I mean, let's face it, Netflix is just giving us options around things we might want to watch because we watch something else, and Amazon is just presenting us with things we might want to buy because we buy something else. Actually, that's first base for a lot of SaaS vendors. Can we just give our customers a nudge insight, something they may want to look at, they may want to be notified about, alerted to, because there's a risk or an opportunity there they want to take action on. So we tend to work with partners, not just to educate them on how to do that, but also help their customers to understand the value or understand what they want, if that makes sense. So that's what we do. We spend a lot of time in that education space. Yeah.
Okay, just out of curiosity, like, would your platform sometimes enable like your customers to not need a business analyst, like an extra employee to come up with those answers? Like, would the software actually provide the answers instead of employing someone to do research and as a business analyst, for example? Does that sort of make sense? Or
yeah, so SaaS vendors may or may not have data scientists, business analysts, or individuals that understand how to build out things like machine learning algorithms or models, but they may have that on their roadmap. And we can be the difference between building a team to do this that are literally often writing a lot of Python scripts and other stuff. So they're quite expensive and scarce resources to bring in. But also, as a SaaS vendor, we're not experts in this space. You know, SaaS vendors are not experts in machine learning and data analytics, whereas we are. That's all we do. So it's not just that we have a technology that can do it, but actually we can be that team you can lean on to make sure that what you're building is right. And we don't necessarily outsource our team to them. That's, you know, our technology is the enabler, and we can be the partner to help them do that effectively without having to bring those resources or teams in house. So it's not just about the technology. We can be that kind of, I suppose, extended data science or analyst team that your business can lean on or be educated by, really, supported by.
Do you have a favorite business book?
Oh, good question. Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey. I keep leaning back on that all the time. We definitely crossed a chasm when we did the management buyout, and we re-engineered our business from being part of a very legacy kind of perpetual license classic on-premise business, part of a very traditional software business, to becoming and now a pure SaaS technology operation, in the way that we're both structured in people, systems, how we measure and monitor what we do, as well as how we deploy our solutions. So and repeatable, right? Repeatable business model, repeatable technology and solution and market. So very much focused on the SaaS market. That's all that we do. We work with SaaS vendors, and we work with data as a service providers as an embedded white label solution, and we don't dilute that. And there's a big enough market for us to focus on, and it means that our product roadmap and our strategy and the things that we do completely align with those customers' needs, frankly, so that we're not distracted by some kind of big opportunity that's left field of that. We focus very, very on that. And crossing the chasm is about making sure that you get that product market fit and that proposition, that ideal customer, really at the heart of the business, and that you focus all of your energies and resources on that. So yeah, that's my favorite book.
Yeah, I actually bought that recently. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I've got a lot of books here that I need to read. But yeah, that's one of the ones I was pretty excited to get my hands on. So I'll have to have a read. Yeah, all right. So what are you curious about or researching right now regarding SaaS and software in general?
That's a brilliant question as well. What am I researching right now? So I'm very interested in where the cloud data analytics market is going. I think the data as a service, or big data as a service, or data analytics as a service space is really shifting a gear. And we're seeing quite a big shift here in the UK, obviously NHS, very traditional, one of the largest employers in the UK, has a huge amount of data, very resistant to moving their data to the cloud, very much kept all of their data behind a very, very rigid framework and infrastructure. And they actually have their own private network called the N3 network. Seeing that rapid shift because of COVID, and then moving that data out into more public cloud environments to enable innovation around that, to provide better solutions for better outcomes for patients, frankly, better patient care. That's changed overnight. And therefore, people can build sort of data as a service, build kind of complete, innovate new go-to-market propositions around this kind of rapid movement of data that perhaps was locked away from the market into more open infrastructures. And we're seeing that with the public sector here in the UK as well, local authorities. So there's a real shift, I think, there's a real unlocking of very, very large data sets, high value data sets now, making those accessible, and what that's going to do to drive kind of lots of new opportunities. That's not really software as a service, but data analytics and data insight as a service, new businesses that will actually completely build around that as a go-to-market proposition, and how that's being leveraged by the, like I say, unlocking of these huge data sets that have often been, locked away from industry. So yeah.
Okay, interesting. All right, and then just to wrap up, where can people go to find out more about PanIntelligence?
So PanIntelligence, we get called all sorts, but it's PAN, like a pan you're frying, and intelligence is in if you've got any smarts. So PanIntelligence.com, you start there. My name's Zandra Moore with a Z, so I'm quite unusual in my name. You just find me on LinkedIn and you connect with me, you say hi, you say you've listened to this podcast. I can thank you for bringing people to my door, and I will definitely reply to everybody that contacts me on LinkedIn, especially if you listen to this podcast and you just let me know that's where you heard this, heard about us. Those are the easiest and best places to start. But any medium, we'll pick it up. We're really good at picking up on those contacts and reach outs. But yeah, just and if you like reviewing who's who and what's what, G2 is a great place for sort of software comparison. It's a bit like the TripAdvisor for software. So go to G2, we're on there. You'll see all of the other technologies that are in a similar space to us, and you'll see all the reviews from our customers and what they think about us. So you know that we're not just talking ourselves up. You can hear what everyone else has to say about who we are and what we do as well.
Okay, excellent. All right then, thanks for being on the show, Zandra. I appreciate your time. Thanks for that.
Thanks, been brilliant, Scott.